This is Airframe Block 6, final exam. The commutator of a generator changes alternating current produced in the armature into direct current as is taken from the armature. That was terrible. Okay, so the commutator changes AC produced in the armature into DC as is taken from the armature. An ammeter in a battery charging system An ammeter in a battery charging system is for the purpose of indicating the rate of current used to charge the battery. An ammeter in a charging system is used to indicate the rate of current used to charge the battery. An ammeter in a battery charging system purpose is indicating the rate of current used to charge the battery. Which of the following is not the purpose of interpoles in the generator? To reduce field strength. Which is not a purpose of interpole generator? Reduce field strength. Which of the following is not one of the purposes of interpoles? Reduce field strength. Not a purpose of interpoles, reduce field strength. Interpoles don't reduce field strength. To test generator or motor armature windings for opens, place armature in the growler and connect a 110 volt test light on adjacent segments. Light should light. So to test generator or motor armature windings, place armature in the growler. To test a generator or motor armature for opens, place armature in the growler. What is the color and orientation of the position lights for navigation on civil airplanes? What is the color and orientation of the nav lights? Left side red, right side green, rear white. So if the rear is white, then left is right. What? If the rear is white, then green is right. If the rear is white, green. If the rear is white, green is right. Just remember that. What is the color and orientation of the nav lights? Left red, green right, rear white. To what depth is the mica insulation between the commutator bars of a DC generator undercut equal to the width of the mica? Depth of the mica insulation between the... What is the depth of the mica insulation between the commutator equal to the width of the mica? What is the depth of the mica insulation equal to the width of the mica? So a voltage regulator controls generator output by varying current flow to generator field coil. A voltage regulator controls generator output by varying current flow to generator field out coil. What was out coil? A voltage regulator controls generator output by varying current flow to generator field coil. A voltage regulator controls generator output by varying current flow to generator field coil. Kind of makes sense. A voltage regulator controls generator output by varying current flow. Okay, so varies the current flow to the generator field coil. Cool. Vary current flow How to control generator output by varying the current flow. Which type of DC generator is not used as airplane generator? Series wound. Which type of DC generator is not used as an airplane generator? Series wound. Series wound is not used as an airplane generator. Which type of DC generator is not used as an airplane generator? Series wound. So which is not used as an airplane generator? Series wound. Series wound is not used as an airplane generator. What is the most accurate type of frequency measuring equipment? Integrated circuit chip having a clock circuit. What is the most accurate type of frequency measuring instrument? Integrated circuit chip having a clock circuit. Cool. So the most accurate measuring instrument is a chip with a clock. Chip with a clock, the most accurate. During ground operation, aircraft generator cooling is usually accomplished by an integral fan. An integral fan cools the aircraft generator during ground operation. So during ground operation, integral fan cools the generator. What does a rectifier do? It changes AC to DC. Cool. So rectifier changes AC to DC. Rectify AC/DC. What type of instrument is used for measuring very high values of resistance? Mega ohm meter. What type of instrument is used to measure very high values of ohms? A mega ohm meter. Pretty easy. When a diode is checked for an open circuit or a short circuit, it should be disconnected from the circuit. Duh. When a diode is checked for an open circuit or short circuit, it should be disconnected from the circuit. So when troubleshooting a diode, it should be disconnected from the circuit. Disconnect the circuit when troubleshooting diodes. When handling a high voltage capacitor in an electric circuit, be sure it is fully discharged before removing it from the circuit. So high voltage capacitor, fully discharge it before removing it. When handling high voltage capacitor, fully discharge before removing it. Fully discharge capacitors before handling them. Got it. Which of the following is most likely to cause thermal runaway in a NiCad battery? Excessive current draw from the battery. Excessive current draw from the battery caused thermal runaway in a NiCad battery. So NiCad battery, thermal runaway, excessive current draw. Thermal runaway, NiCad battery, excessive current draw. Which of the following will cause thermal runaway, excessive current draw for NiCad battery? Cool. How can it be determined if a transformer winding has some of its turns shortened together? The transformer will get hot in normal operation. How can you determine if a transformer winding has some turns shortened? The transformer will get hot in normal operation. How can you determine the transformer has a short? Transformer will get hot during normal operation. When bending coaxial cable, the bend radius must be at least 10 times the diameter of the cable. When bending coaxial cable, the bend radius should be at least 10 times the diameter of the cable. When bending coaxial cable, the bend radius should be at least 10 times the diameter of the cable. So when bending the coaxial cable, the bend radius should be at least 10 times the diameter. So easy, 10 times. There are 3 basic types of DC motors: series, shunt, and compound. Okay. So there are what the fuck? So there are 3 types of basic. There are 3 basic types of DC motors: series, shunt, and compound. In the series motor, the field windings consisting of relatively few turns of heavy wire and connected in series with the armature winding. Both 1 and 2 are true. Cool, so just remember both of those are true. So there are 3 basic types of DC motors: series, shunt, and compound. In the series motor, the field windings consisting of relatively few turns of heavy wire are connected in series with the armature winding. Okay, dope. So in series motor, the field windings consisting of relatively few turns of heavy wire are connected in series with the armature winding. So series motor consists of few turns of heavy wire connected in series. So the series motor, 3 basic types: series, shunt, and compound. Both 1 and 2 are true for the answer. For general electrical use in aircraft, the acceptable method of attaching a terminal to a wire is crimping. Too easy. For general electrical use in aircraft, the acceptable method of attaching a terminal to a wire is crimping. So by crimping is how we attach a terminal to a wire in general aviation. General electric for aircraft. The purpose of a localizer is to align the airplane with the center of the runway. The purpose of a localizer is to align the airplane with the center of the runway. So to align the center of the airplane to the runway, to align the airplane to the center of the runway, you use a localizer. Cool. When installing a DME antenna, it should be aligned with the center line of the plane. Cool. When installing a DME antenna, it should be aligned with the center line of the plane. So DMEs are aligned with the center line of the plane. DME is center line. DME center line. DME center line. Like run DMC, but run DME. How should the splices be arranged? If several are to be located in an electrical wire bundle, staggered along the length of the bundle. So splices should be arranged staggered along the length of the bundle. So how should splices be arranged in an electrical wire bundle? staggered along the length of the bundle. Duh, too easy. What is the minimum bend radius of electrical wire bundle? 10 times the outside diameter of the bundle. Cool, just like coaxial cable. So 10 times the diameter for wire bundles and 10 times the diameter for coaxial cables. Sick, bruh. So when approved, splices may be used to repair manufactured harness or install wiring. The maximum number of splices permitted between any two connectors is 1. Jesus Christ, all that for fucking just 1 for an answer? So when approved, splices may be used to repair manufactured harness or install wiring. The maximum number of splices permitted between any two connectors is 1. Okay, so 1 splice per wire, basically what I'm saying. Fucking duh, all that for fucking that. Jesus Christ. ANMS electrical connectors are specifically designed to meet military specifications. Duh, ANMS. Stupid. The most common method of attaching a pin or socket to an individual wire is crimping. Same thing as the other one. So crimping, the most common thing to get wire to socket is crimping. Dope. They always just repeat this shit. The pin section of an ANMS connector is normally installed to the ground side of a circuit. Alright, so the pin section of an ANMS connector is normally installed on the ground side of a circuit. Makes sense. So the pin section of a military standard connector is normally installed to the ground side. So pin section is to the ground side. Pin section to the ground side on military boats. The voltage output of an alternator may be regulated by controlling the voltage output of the DC exciter. The voltage output of an alternator may be regulated by controlling the voltage output of the DC exciter. I don't understand. So voltage output of an alternator may be regulated by controlling the voltage output of the DC exciter. So the DC output of an alternator is regulated by DC output exciter. I don't know. Might get that one wrong. So the voltage exciter, that's all I gotta remember. Voltage output alternator, voltage exciter. So voltage output of an alternator may be regulated by the voltage exciter. Cool, once we see that question, we'll know. If several long lengths of electrical cable are to be installed in rigid conduit, the possibility of damage to the cable as it is pulled through the conduit may be reduced by dusting the cable with powdered soapstone. Ooh, capstone. So if several lengths of electrical cable are installed in rigid conduit, the possibility of damage to the cable as it's pulled through the conduit will be reduced by dusting the cable with powdered soapstone. There needs to be a faster way to say all of that. So dust the cable with powdered soapstone for conduit. So for rigid conduit, dust the cable with a powdered capstone. Grounding is electrically connecting a conductive object to the primary structure. One purpose of grounding is to prevent development of radio frequency potentials. Grounding is electrically connecting a conductive object to the primary structure. One purpose of grounding is to prevent development of radio frequency potentials. Did not know that. I would have put a different answer. So one purpose of grounding is to prevent development of radio frequency potentials. One purpose of grounding is to prevent development of radio frequency potentials. Cool. What is normally used to bond non-continuous stainless steel aircraft components? Copper jumpers. So copper jumpers are used to bond non-continuous stainless steel aircraft components. So what is normally used to bond non-continuous stainless steel aircraft components? Copper jumpers. Cool. Copper jumpers. Copper jumpers. What is normally used to bond continuous stainless steel aircraft components? Copper jumpers. Aircraft fuse capacity is rated in amperes. Aircraft fuse capacity is rated in amps. Like a 12 amp fuse, 4 amp to 30 amp. Cool. Aircraft fuse capacity is rated in amps. Like a 30 amp green fuse. So those are amps. When adding a rheostat to a light circuit to control the light intensity, it should be connected in series with the light. So when adding a rheostat to a light circuit, it should be connected in series. So when adding a rheostat, it should be connected in series with the light. When adding a rheostat, it should be connected in series with the light. Circuits that must be operated only in an emergency or whose inadvertent activation could endanger a system frequently employ guard switches. Why put all these crazy fucking words just for guard switches? So circuits that must be operated only in emergency must have guard switches. You could just put that instead of all the other shit. Inadvertent activation of endanger the system of frequently employ. Jeez Louise, Papa Cheese ain't make no sense for all that, man. Come on, man. Shit. So circuits that must be operated only in emergency need guard switches. Come on. If one switch is used to control all navigation lights, the lights are most likely connected in parallel and in parallel with each other in series with the switch. Right, if one goes off, the other one will stay on. No shit, it's fucking parallel. If one switch is used to control all navigation lights, the lights are most likely in parallel to each other in series with the switch. Got it. Oil cannon of the sides of aluminum or steel electrical junction boxes is considered to be a shorting hazard. Oil cannon of the sides of aluminum or steel junction boxes is considered to be a shorting hazard. So oil cans and sides of aluminum boxes are a shorting hazard. Oil can shorting hazard. Oil can shorting hazard. Oil can shorting hazard. Cool. When you see oil can, just remember that's shorting hazard. Electrical wiring system Electrical wiring installed in an aircraft without special closing means open wiring. Dude, what the heck happened? Electrical wiring installed in an aircraft without special enclosing means open wiring offers the advantages of ease of installation, simple maintenance, and reduced weight. When bundling open wire, the bundle should be limited as to the number of cables to minimize the damage from a single electrical fault. So be limited as to the number of cables. So be limited as to the number of cables to minimize damage from a single electrical fault. So when bundling open wiring, the bundles should be limited as to the number of cables to minimize damage from a single electrical fault. So electrical wiring installed in aircraft without special enclosing. So they're talking about open wiring right there. So when they're talking about open wiring, is limited to the number of cables to minimize damage from a single electrical fault. Alright. So it's limited to the number of cables. During inspection of the terminal strips of an aircraft electrical system, it should be determined that the terminal studs are anchored against rotation. During inspection of terminal strips of an aircraft electrical system, it should be determined that the terminal studs are anchored against rotation. During inspection of terminal strips, it should be determined that terminal studs are anchored against rotation. Seems obvious. So terminal studs anchored against rotation. Terminal strips. Terminal studs are anchored against rotation. What protection to wires and cables does conduit provide when used in aircraft installations? Mechanical. What protection to wires and cables does conduit provide when used in aircraft installations? Mechanical. Provides mechanical protection. Alright, so that was 39, so here's 40. Pick up where we left off. So 39, what protection to wires and cables does conduit provide? Mechanical. So it provides mechanical protection to aircraft installations. So which of the following should be accomplished in the installation of aircraft wiring? Locate the bundle above flammable fluids and securely clamp to the structure. So which of the following should be accomplished in the installation of aircraft wiring? Locate the bundle above flammable fluids and securely clamp to structure. So I can picture that, you don't want fluids, you want wires under the fluid for leaking and stuff. Cool. So let's go to the next one. So if the positive terminal of a voltmeter is connected to the negative terminal of the source voltage, and the negative terminal of the meter is connected to the positive terminal of the source voltage, the meter will read backwards. So if you switch them, it will read backwards. That's for old meters. Now, like new meters will read negative, which is backwards. But the old meters, it was actual meter, like on your car, a speedometer with the hand and shit, with the analog. So it'll go backwards. So that's what it means for that. So all that for backwards. It should just say if you switch the terminals, they'll read backwards. Cool. So when using the voltage drop method of checking circuit resistance, the input voltage must be maintained at a constant value. When using the voltage drop method of checking circuit resistance, the input voltage must be maintained at a constant value. I don't get that, I'm just reading it, I don't understand. So when using voltage drop method of checking circuit resistance, the input voltage must be maintained at a constant value. When using the voltage drop method, of checking circuit resistance, the input voltage must be maintained at a constant value. Okay, so when checking voltage drop, the input voltage must be maintained. So when checking voltage drop, input voltage must be maintained. Okay, makes sense. If you're checking voltage drop, you want to maintain the voltage so you can get what the drop was. Duh. The nominal rating of electrical switches refers to continuous current rating with the contact closed. The nominal rating of electrical switches refers to current rating with the contacts closed. The nominal rating of electrical switches refers to the current rating with the contacts closed. Alright. So the nominal rating of electrical switch refers to the continuous current rating with the contacts closed. Current rating with the contacts closed. So it refers to current rating with contacts closed. Current rating contacts closed. Current rating CC. Contacts closed. So an aircraft electrical junction box. So aircraft electrical junction boxes located in a fire zone are usually constructed of stainless steel. Aircraft electrical junction boxes located in a fire zone. Electrical junction boxes located in fire zone are usually constructed of stainless steel. Makes sense. To help minimize the radio interference of a capacitor, will largely eliminate and provide a steady direct current if the capacitor is connected to the generator in parallel. To help minimize radio interference, the capacitor will largely eliminate and provide a steady direct current if the capacitor is connected to the generator in parallel. To minimize radio interference, the capacitor will largely eliminate and provide steady direct current if the capacitor is connected to the generator in parallel. You need to shorten that, bro, it's too long. To minimize radio interference, capacitors are connected to the generator in parallel. To minimize radio interference, capacitors connected in parallel. Capacitors connected in parallel to minimize radio interference. Parallel to minimize radio interference. Connected in parallel to minimize radio interference with the capacitor. To minimize radio interference, capacitor is connected in the generator parallel. Something like that. The primary consideration when selecting electric cable size are current carry capacity and allowable voltage drop. The primary considerations when selecting electric cable size are current carrying capacity and allowable voltage drop. Current carrying capacity and allowable voltage drop when selecting cable size. So when selecting cable size, you want to consider current carrying capacity and allowable voltage drop. The allowable voltage drop and current carrying capacity. Kind of like a truck, you want like, capacity. Shit. We do not have the capacity. So, navigation lights on some aircraft consist of a single circuit controlled by a single switch, which has an on position and an off position, with no additional positions possible. This switch is referred to as a single pole, single throw, two-position switch. So a switch that has on and off and no additional positions is referred to single pole, single throw, two-position switch. SPST, SPST, SPST. SPST, single pole, single throw. SPST. So having a switch that has on and off and no additional positions is SPST. On off, no additional positions, SPST. Single pole, single throw. Electric circuits are protected from overheating by means of fuses. Electrical circuits are protected from overheating by means of fuses. So fuses protect circuits from overheating. Fuses protect circuits from overheating. Circuits are protected from overheating by fuses. So fuses protect circuits from overheating. How does the routing of coaxial cables differ from the routing of electrical wiring? Coaxial cables are routed as directly as possible because you don't want to bend it. So how does routing of coaxial cables differ from routing of electrical wiring? Coaxial cables are routed as directly as possible. So which of the following copper electrical cable size should be selected to replace a number 6 aluminum cable? Number 6. So which of the following electrical cable size for number 6 aluminum cable? Number 6. Too easy. So which of the following copper cable sizes should be selected to replace? Oh, I'm not even reading this correctly. So which of the following copper cable size should be selected to replace number 6 aluminum electrical cable? So number 6. So, there's something different with the answer if it was a different cable, but that's just easy because it's 6 and the answer's there, so 6. So when we see that electrical, when we see copper to aluminum, it's going to be number 6. So in insulations where the ammeter is in the generator or alternator lead and the regulator system does not limit the maximum current to the generator or alternator can deliver, the ammeter can be redlined at what percent of the generator or alternator rating? 100%. So in installations where the ammeter is in the generator or alternator lead and the regulator system does not limit the maximum current that the generator or alternator can deliver, the ammeter can be redlined at what percent of the generator alternator rating? 100%. The ammeter can be redlined at what percent of the generator alternator rating? 100%. 100. At what percent? 100. Installations where ammeter generator lead 100. Which statement relating to electrical wiring is true? When attaching a terminal to the end of an electrical cable, it should be determined that the strength of the cable to terminal joint is at least equal to the tensile strength of the cable itself. So which statement is true? When attaching a terminal to the wire, when attaching a terminal to the end of an electrical cable, it should be determined that the strength of the cable to terminal joint is at least equal to the tensile strength of the cable itself. So when attaching a terminal to the end of an electrical cable, it should be determined that the strength of cable to terminal joint is at least equal to the tensile strength of the cable itself. So at least equal to. So two of those are the same. They're almost exactly the same. So the joint is at least equal to the tensile strength of the cable itself. So we want at least equal to, not twice. It's equal to the tensile strength of the cable itself. Cool. So the cable to terminal joint is at least equal to the terminal tensile strength. Bonding connections should be tested for resistance value. Bonding connections should be tested for resistance value. Bonding connections should be tested for resistance value. Bonding connections should be tested for resistance. Bonding connections should be tested for resistance. What kind of switch should you install in a single wire circuit that requires a switch to be manually held in the on position? Single pole, single throw. Two positions normally open, no. Two position normally open, no. What kind of switch should you install in a single wire circuit that requires a switch to be manually held in the on position? Single pole, single throw, SPST, two position normal open. Alright, it's kind of confusing. So what kind of switch should be installed in a single wire circuit that requires a switch to be held in the on position? Single pole, single throw, two position normally open, no. A circuit breaker is held. A circuit breaker is installed in an aircraft electrical system primarily to protect the circuit and should be located as close to the source as possible. A circuit breaker should be installed in an aircraft electrical system primarily to protect the circuit and should be located as close to the source as possible. So a circuit breaker should be installed to protect the circuit and be as close to the source as possible. How should a voltmeter be connected in parallel with the load? How should a voltmeter be connected in parallel with the load? How should a voltmeter be connected in parallel with the load? So the voltmeter should be connected in parallel with the load. Connect a voltmeter in parallel. A circuit protection device called a circuit limiter is essentially a slow blow fuse and designed to be used in heavy power circuits. So slow blow fuse are designed to be used in heavy power circuits. Slow blow fuse, heavy power circuits. Slow blow fuse, heavy power circuits. Slow blow fuse, heavy power circuits. If it is necessary to be used, an electrical connector where it may be exposed to moisture, the mechanic should use a special moisture-proof type. If it is necessary to use an electrical connector where it may be exposed to moisture, the mechanic should use a special moisture-proof type. So if an electrical connection exposed to moisture, should be used an electrical special moisture type. Jesus Christ. So if an electrical connector may be exposed to moisture, use a special moisture-proof type connector. So use a special moisture-proof type of electrical connector if it's exposed to moisture. Moist. Three kinds of circuit protection devices are circuit breaker, fuses, and current limiters. Circuit breaker, fuse, current limiter. Three kinds of protection device: circuit breaker, fuse, current limiter. Circuit breaker, fuse, current limiter. Three types of protection device: circuit breaker, fuse, current limiter. Circuit breaker, fuse, current limiter. Three kinds of protection device. If a wire is installed so that it comes in contact with some moving parts, what protection should be given to the wire? Pass-through conduit. If a wire is to be installed so that it comes in contact with moving parts, what protection should be given to the wire? Pass it through conduit. So if the wire is moving through moving parts, pass it through conduit. In the American wire gauge AWG system of numbers used to designate electrical wires sizes, the number assigned to the size is related to its cross-sectional area. So in the AWG numbering system, the number assigned to the wire, the number assigned to the size is related to its cross-sectional area. So in American wiring gauge, the numbers used to designate electrical wire sizes is related to its cross-sectional area. So the cross-sectional area of a wire determines its gauge, determined by American wire gauge. Jesus. So American wire gauge numbers their electrical wires by cross-sectional area. Cool. So the cross-sectional area is what gives a wire its size, according to the AWG. What is the primary purpose of an autopilot? To relieve the pilot of control of the aircraft during long periods of flight. What is the primary purpose of autopilot? To relieve the pilot of control of the aircraft during long periods of flight. So to relieve the pilot of long periods of flight, we use autopilot. So which of the following provides manual maneuverability to the aircraft while autopilot is engaged? Flight controller. Which of the following provides manual maneuverability of an aircraft while the autopilot is engaged? The flight controller. So the flight controller provides manual maneuverability when autopilot is engaged. Flight controller. So in an autopilot, which signal nullifies this input signal to the ailerons? The follow-up signal. In an autopilot, which signal nullifies the input signal to the ailerons? The follow-up signal. So the follow-up signal nullifies the input of the ailerons. So in which control element of an autopilot system is an attitude indicator sensing? Which control element of an autopilot system is an attitude indicator sensing? Sensing is an autopilot system attitude indicator. Sensing. Sensing is an autopilot system used for attitude indicator. What is the operating principle of the sensing device used in an autopilot system? The relative motion between the gyro and its supporting system. What is the operating principle of the sensing device used in an autopilot system? The relative motion between the gyro and its supporting system. The relative motion between the gyro and its supporting system is the principle used in sensing device on autopilot system. So, what operating principle of sensing device used in autopilot system? Relative motion between gyro and its supporting systems. What will occur if an aircraft attitude is changed by its autopilot system in order to correct for error and the involved control surface are returned to streamline by the aircraft by the time the aircraft has reached its correct position in normal operation? What will occur if an aircraft attitude is changed by its autopilot system in order to correct an error and the involved control surface are returned to streamline by the time the aircraft has reached their correct position in normal operation? So we'll do this last one here, we'll pause this video. So what component of an autopilot system applies torque to the control surface of an aircraft? The servo. So what component of an autopilot system applies torque to the controls of the aircraft? The servo. So the servos apply torque to the control surfaces. Servos apply torque to the control surfaces of an aircraft.